Joe Drake here with the Axiom Fitness Academy, bringing you guys part 4 of a series of videos all based around this idea of how do we find and craft a plan for success in the fitness industry. If we're thinking long term, what are some of the main pieces and things that we can be working on to make sure that we make it that much more likely that we find the kind of success we're looking for, whatever that means to you. So if you guys haven't seen those first 3 videos, you guys can check out. I'll link to some of them in the video below as well. But diving in today, our 4th and final piece is this idea of building systems. So everything else that we talked about before, this idea of becoming the resource and acting and living like an entrepreneur and doing all these things sounds great, but if we're not putting actual systematic processed action to it, first off, it's probably never going to happen. Second off, it's probably never going to happen consistently, and that is probably the number one variable. You guys think about it. It's the same thing when we look at clients getting results long term. What's the number one most important variable? Success relies upon consistency. So they might do it for 1 or 2 weeks, but if they're not consistent with their workouts, they're not going to see progress. Same idea for you guys. If you go about reading and becoming the expert for 2 weeks because it's this exciting idea, as maybe you saw the video, but it doesn't have a process to it that happens day after day, it's never going to happen long term. So systems are extremely important to making this happen, and that's why I put up here first one, don't trust yourself. I've learned not to trust myself. I get excited about things. If I don't put processed action to it, it's probably not going to happen, or it's probably just not going to happen on a regular basis. So part of it, don't trust yourself. I know a lot of us think, you know what, I've got my schedule up here, I have all things all figured out. But the busier and the more successful you get, the harder that becomes, and the more you start letting things slip and slide. Crafting a routine. So when it comes to building systems, systemize your own schedule. So creating a system to, how do I sit down and approach and prioritize what I'm doing on a regular basis. I know for me, this has been probably one of the biggest game changers in the last couple years, as I have sat and talked with business mentors and mentors in other aspects of my life, and figuring out, hey, here's all the things that I want to accomplish. I'm not happy with where I'm at right now. And the times where I haven't been getting to where I want to be, it's generally because I was not systematically sitting down, prioritizing what I wanted to work on, and then just getting to work and making it happen. So in that process of not trusting yourself, crafting that routine and really understanding how to prioritize your schedule is going to help you achieve that and get there. And I think it all kind of relies back on this idea of building systems. It's generally not the sexy idea. As it comes to gravity and oxygen in the gym here and building the back-end systems that make everything function and work, it's not the most exciting thing in the world. But the fact that most people are not going to put the time into doing it, that is what also gives you an extra edge, right? So it means follow-up systems. Let's say you guys are out working with clients and you're getting in new leads, but you don't have a system for following up with people. That extra benefit of setting up, maybe it's a couple of automatic emails and then a reminder to yourself to call them within 24 hours. Those things go a long way, right, in this finding success long term. And it also makes it happen in a way that you don't have to think about it. The benefit and the beauty of these kinds of systems is that day to day, it doesn't always take thought process, because you might have some days where, guess what, you're not as creative. You might have some days where you're just not remembering things the same. But if you've got systems set up that help those things function, whether we're talking about getting back to a client or we're talking about, hey, understanding, well, I've got this half-hour gap in my schedule, what should I be working on? Well, you've already figured out what that is, so now you can just sit down and boom, okay, awesome, there it is, let me get after it and go. That this is the piece that really ties everything in back together. And tying all these videos back together too is just understanding success can look like a lot of different things. You gotta really dive in and understand what level of success is gonna make me happy. What does that look like for me? And also, what is that gonna look like for my life? Because you might find what it takes to get to a certain point is not really what you want on a day-to-day basis. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it really comes into understanding what kind of life am I trying to craft here, and maybe if you guys are like me, what kind of impact am I looking to have on the world? And then it makes all this other stuff worth it. So you guys got a little bit of insight on what I think, and from my experience working with others out there in the fitness industry, the 4 keys to finding success in the fitness industry. Number 1, becoming the resource, right? Putting in the time and energy to do those things. Number 2, thinking like an entrepreneur and approaching fitness from a business standpoint so that you can continue to stay passionate about it and do it long term rather than just stay in the industry for a year or 2 like many trainers do. And then you take a look at our 3rd key, putting clients first above all else, right? You know, if you want to work with people, you got to fall in love with people. You got to understand them, and you got to prioritize them, because they're the ones who are going to help you find more clients and continue to give you the experience and build whatever it is that you're trying to build. And then your fourth and final, build the kind of systems that are going to support the process that you're looking to go through. You're going to support this long-term growth towards finding that path to success, whatever it is you define it as.